There are just some bands whose history is so deep and whose reputation is so great that they lend themselves to endless scholarly examination. Take the Beatles, for example. There are more than 400 books written about them collectively and about John, Paul, Ringo, and George individually, and new ones appear every year. There is just that much to say and to analyze. U2 is another example. Because they've been around for so long and because they have so many fans, their career has been documented with great precision. Same thing with Nirvana. 3 albums plus 1 suicide equals a library full of books. David Bowie, R.E.M., Morrissey and the Smiths, the Sex Pistols, the Clash. There are scholarly dissertations and even graduate courses in universities on all of them. Then there's Oasis. The history of Oasis is also very deep. Their reputation is legendary. It's just that, scholarly is just not a word that you would use when talking about Oasis. I think you know what I mean. Odd would work. Strange, yes. Unusual, unorthodox, eccentric, abnormal, aberrant, atrocious, flaky, freakish. They're all pretty much acceptable. Let's just go with weird and document that. This is the weird world of Oasis.
Now, the ongoing history of new music.
Oasis with Lila from their 2005 album Don't Believe the Truth. Welcome again, I'm Alan Cross, and this show is about Oasis, and it's going to get weird. A few modern bands have had so much of their career and so many of their antics documented with such detail. Sure, there are the songs and the albums and the tours and the serious interviews, but for this program, we will have none of that. No standard biography, no recitation of their discography, and certainly no scholarly examination of anything they've done. We are not interested in that because all we're concerned about is the goofy stuff. In fact, what we've done here is assembled the top 10 weird things about Oasis. Here's number 10. We're going to start with money. Oasis, or more specifically Noel, has sold many, many, many albums and thus is very, very, very rich. Creation, the label that first signed Oasis, was so grateful that they once presented Liam Gallagher with an awesomely expensive Rolex watch and a vintage guitar. At the same time, they gave Noel a chocolate brown Rolls-Royce, which was fine, except for the fact that Noel had never learned how to drive and didn't have a driver's license. The value of Oasis's publishing deal is worth somewhere around $200 million. That includes a signing bonus of $18 million. A Greatest Hits CD automatically triggers a $23 million payment. Meg, Noel's ex-wife, was a notoriously big spender. She was able to drop 27,000 pounds, which is about 60,000 Canadian dollars, each month on just clothes and makeup. When they divorced, she demanded alimony of $90,000 a month. Meanwhile, the other guys in Oasis weren't so lucky. Gem, the guy who replaced Bonehead on guitar, was originally hired as an employee and not as a member of the group. His starting weekly salary was $200 a week. Now, he's doing much better now, but for a time, Noel, his boss, was making 100,000 times more money than he was. Literally 100,000 times more. Last I heard, Noel takes about 48% of all Oasis profits himself. Everyone else shares in the remaining 52%. So, with all this money, you would think that bankers would be chasing the Gallagher brothers down the street, right? Well, not at first. Coutts, the bank used by the Queen of England and many of the UK's richest people, snubbed the Gallaghers when they tried to open an account. Insiders say that they were too rock and roll and thus weren't acceptable as customers. Weird Oasis fact number 10. They have too much rock star cash for the comfort of the Queen's banker. Weird Oasis fact number 9 has a name because it's a person. His name is Tony McCarroll. Now, Tony was the original drummer in Oasis and a founding member of The Rain, the band that came before Oasis. He appeared on just one album, the first one, Definitely Maybe, but then Noel fired him in 1995 for, allegedly, being a bad drummer. Now, Tony stayed quiet about things for a while, but eventually decided to sue for wrongful dismissal when someone suggested that he try a smarter lawyer. When the case went to court, Tony's new lawyers argued that his previous law firm had bungled the original Oasis recording deal in 1993, creating a loophole that allowed Noel to fire anyone without any kind of severance or compensation or royalties. So, they sued for $25 million. Unfortunately for Tony, the case was thrown out because under British law, there's a time limit on these things. Because he had failed to file suit before the end of 2000, Tony found himself screwed again. But he did get a few bucks to go away, about £550,000. So, weird Oasis fact number 9, the Tony McCarroll saga. And here he is, playing some wobbly drum on Sesame Street, singing a duet with a bunch of Muppets on a song they called Shiny Happy Monsters. With that as their template, the people who do the Smurfs asked Noel Gallagher if they could use some Oasis songs for the Smurfs show. Noel refused. However, should SpongeBob SquarePants ever call, chances are that Noel will say yes, because he is a gigantic fan of yellow, sexually ambiguous sea sponges who live in a pineapple, apparently. Oh, and speaking of real estate, that's the subject of Weird Oasis fact number 7, which is coming next.
You're tuned to the ongoing history of new music. This is the ongoing history of new music.
Welcome back to the top 10 weird things about Oasis. And for fact number 7, we're going to talk about real estate. The British tabloids had a field day when Noel Gallagher moved into a huge 6-bedroom townhouse mansion in the Belsize Park area of London. He spent about $2 million in the house and then let loose some interior decorators for 6 months. The result was something that will never, ever make any of those shows on BBC Canada or HGTV. Well, maybe they will, when they talk about bad interior decorating. The Japanese leather headboard on Noel's bed cost $24,000. The living room featured a 35-foot fish tank that's so heavy that the foundations of the house had to be reinforced. The sitting room is paneled in mahogany and includes a set of sofas covered in mock leopard skin. And in keeping with the African theme of the house, a set of zebra hair picture frames sit above the mantelpiece. Oh, and it's easy to find. Just look for the place with the words Supernova Heights in stained glass over the front door. And if that weren't enough, Noel has a country house in a village in Buckinghamshire, Chalfont St. Giles, west of London to be specific. There's a Buddhist temple by the swimming pool, even though Noel is not into Buddhism. It's right next to an outdoor bar that has a sliding glass roof. And there's still more. Noel had a luxury villa on the Spanish party island of Ibiza that he bought from Mike Oldfield, the legendary prog rock creator of Tubular Bells. So, Noel Gallagher, outrageous collector of real estate. Weird Oasis have to pay tribute to Oasis in a variety of ways. For example, there is an Oasis tribute band called Noasis, who for a while had gone to great lengths to not only sound like Oasis, but to actually look like them. Same with the Gallaghers. They're a couple of guys from Scotland who have been told by Liam and Noel that they should milk their act for as much as they can, while they can. But here's my favorite, the Mike Flowers Pops. Check out this 60s Lounge Lizard cover version. And believe it or not, demand for anything Oasis was so big in the middle 1990s, at the height of Britpop, that this song was a top 10 single! Weird Oasis fact number 6. Imitation as the sincerest form of flattery.
Backbeat, the word on the street that the fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you've heard it before, but you've never really had a doubt. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you. and all the roads that lead us there are winding, and all the lights that light the way are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. And baby, are you gonna be the one that saves me? And after all, you're my wonder wall. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you. And all the roads that lead you there are winding, and all the lights that light the way are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. And baby, are you gonna be the one that saves me? And after all, you're my wonder wall.
The Mike Flowers Pops with their version of Wonderwall, which sold disturbingly well during the days of Britpop in the middle 1990s. Moving now to Weird Oasis fact number 5, which is a nice segue from imitation and flattery to outright theft. It involves all those charges of plagiarism that have dogged Oasis from the beginning. There's a story that when Oasis was rehearsing for the first album, another group working down the hall taped a note to the door of the Oasis room. The note read, "Get your own riffs." Oasis has been sued many times because of sonic and melodic similarities with other songs. One of the best examples was the song Go Let It Out. The lyrics and the bridge are awfully similar to a 1976 song from a Jamaican group called the Heptones. The lines about princes and kings and clowns that caper in their sawdust rings are almost word for word from the Heptones track. So, did Noel steal from the Heptones? Well, no. He borrowed them from the writings of a UK poet named R.L. Sharp, whose works were published in a collection called Poems That Touch the Heart in 1941. You can actually look it up. The poem is called Bag of Tools. Noel found the princes and kings bit after his ex-mother-in-law gave him the book as a present. So does Noel owe R.L. Sharp some cash? And, come to think of it, did the Heptones owe this guy any money? Well, no. Mr. Sharp died in 1950. His work is in the public domain, which means anybody can use it for whatever purposes they choose. So no crime was committed, although some theft did take place. And you got to figure that the estate of Mr. Sharp must be somewhat peeved for the visual images that this will create. Back in the days of Definitely Maybe, a British magazine called For Women offered Oasis $150,000 to pose nude for a centerfold spread. Editor Ruth Corbett said, "We wanted to feature them because they're sexy in a rough and ready sort of way." Oasis, however, declined the offer. And for the record, For Women also offered $50,000 to Michael Hutchence of INXS, and they offered $500 to Shane MacGowan, ex-leader of the Pogues. They'd take his picture naked, but only if he agreed not to smile. The top 3 Weird Oasis facts are coming next, and you just knew that we had to do something on drugs, right? Oh, yeah. Hang on.
You're tuned to the ongoing history of new music. This is the ongoing history of new music.
We're slowly wading through the top 10 weird things about Oasis. There are probably 100, 1,000 things that we could talk about, but these are, kind of like my favorites. A show on Oasis wouldn't be complete if we didn't talk about the ingestion of various substances. And this goes all the way back to a large chunk of hash in a sock drawer. Apparently, when Noel was in his early teens, Mum was doing the laundry and putting away Noel's socks when she found something wrapped in tinfoil in the drawer. Now, Mum freaked out. "You're on heroin and crack, aren't you?" Noel said, "No, Mum. That's what musicians use for wiping the strings on their guitars. Violin players use this all the time. It makes the strings sound better." So he grabbed the hash and he ran it all over the neck of his guitar. "See what I mean?" Mum seemed satisfied with this explanation and agreed that his guitar did sound better, so she left Noel alone to practice in his room undisturbed. Much of the band's early reputation was based on drugs. One of the most famous quotes came from Noel when he asserted that to get him going in the morning, he'd sprinkle cocaine on his cornflakes. In the days before Oasis, when he worked as a guitar roadie for the Inspiral Carpets, he'd stash his drugs in their equipment. Went around the world and through many customs checkpoints that way. Bonehead was a little different. He stated that while on tour, he'd sometimes drink shampoo. You know those little bottles that you sometimes find in your hotel room? Those. So why would he drink them? Because it smells good, he says. Liam? Pretty standard. Cigarettes and alcohol mainly, although Coke was a major food group for a very... Weird Oasis fact number 2 has to do with a strange, semi-unofficial recording made at the Fort Crest Hotel in Glasgow, Scotland, sometime around midnight on April 7th, 1994. Liam and Noel were giving an interview about the song Supersonic, which had just been released as a single. It was also shortly after they had been thrown off a ferry on its way to the continent. A tape machine was turned on, a question was asked, and, have a listen.
I'm sick of all these bands who ain't got, you don't get in situations and that no more. The last band that opposite was the Pistols and that. You know, like, they'd go out and like something had happened. And that's all it is. That's the way we are, or the way I am. I always go out and I meet some or whatever. In your world, in my world, no, you've been what you've been writing on about, right? From
if you think rock and roll
to me,
if you think if you think rock and roll, it's getting arrested.
Rock and roll is about being yourself, and I had a drink and I had
rock and roll's about music.
Yeah, I know
music.
I know it is.
Music. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about Oasis. It's about the songs. No, it isn't. It's not. It's not about you.
Pistols, where they're the most.
Who's talking about the Sex Pistols?
They're the best rock and roll band that ever.
No, they're not. They're not. They're not. They're not.
They are. They're one of them.
This goes on for 14 long minutes. The tape somehow made its way to an indie record label called Fierce Panda, the label who would later play a big part in the discovery of Coldplay. They released it under the title of Wibbling Rivalry. It became the highest ever charting interview record in the history of the UK. It reached number 52 on the singles charts, just in case you were wondering. We finally reached Weird Oasis fact number 1. Over the years, Oasis has won a lot of different awards, but this is one that Liam could do without. In early 2005, Nuts magazine, a men's magazine whose website has a section called Assess My Breasts, released their inaugural list of male celebrities with sagging chests. The sag had to be so pronounced that the dude must be able to fill a bra. In other words, this was a list of the best celebrity man boobs. The list included Ben Affleck, Matt LeBlanc, Ozzy Osbourne's son Jack, and right at the top, in the number 1 position, Liam Gallagher. All those years of drinking and drug-taking and partying have caught up with him. In fact, there have been several embarrassing holiday snaps of a shirtless Liam in the British tabloids. Not real good. Liam Gallagher, owner of the best celebrity things about Oasis. And if you can wait for a few seconds, we'll go into extra time with 5 bonus facts. Hang on.
You're tuned to the ongoing history of new music. This is the ongoing history of new music.
Before we finish up this show on Oasis weirdness, here are 5 bonus facts that you can use to dazzle or disgust your friends. Number 5, the most expensive Oasis collectible seems to be something known as the Vox Box. 9 CDs in a box that looks like an old-style Vox guitar amplifier. Now, this was never available commercially. Creation Records used them as giveaways in a contest, and if you can find an Oasis Vox box in mint condition, it is worth no less than £800, or about 2,500 Canadian. Number 4. Noel Gallagher refused to release any music anytime around December 31st, 1999. Why? He was worried about the Y2K bug. He thought it would infect computers used to calculate chart positions. Number 3. In the song Supersonic, there's a reference to someone named Elsa. Elsa is a dog who hung out in one of the studios where Oasis recorded that first album. Somebody fed Elsa some Alka-Seltzer, which made her kind of gaseous from the wrong end. And Noel found this so funny that he immortalized Elsa in a clunky rhyming couplet. Number 2. Liam's dream for a post-music career is to be a professional boxer. Here's a hint. Before you step in the ring, ditch the man boobs. And one final thing. British researchers divided 11,000 children into 3 groups. Group 1 listened to classical music. Group 2 listened to talk radio. And Group 3 got to listen to a lot of alternative rock, heavy with music from Oasis. All 3 groups were then given an IQ test. Those kids, given a steady diet of Oasis and Blur, tested 4% higher than everyone else. Could it be that Oasis is actually good for you? Maybe. These guys are never dull, are they? Technical productions by Rob Johnston and Andrew Leung. I'm Alan Cross.
You've been listening to The Ongoing History of New Music, a Deep Sky production.